This is the Journey Podcast. We highlight the journeys of our guests, where they've been, where they are now, and where they are going. Let's join them on their journey. Welcome to the Journey Podcast. Today we are joined by Alan Edwards. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification button. If you like our podcast and want to get notified of it every single week, we bring great episodes like this to you every single week, like Alan. And I'm really glad to have Alan join us today. I got to meet him through the IT channel in the world that I work in IT and cybersecurity space for the small and medium businesses. And Alan's been around this world for quite a bit of time compared to some guys like me. So, but not as long as some other guys or gals out there. But he definitely brings a level of experience that is very, very valuable to those listeners who are in the IT and MSP space. So Alan began his IT career in '94 as an entry-level tech. He was 3 years old at that time, and staffing was as bad as it is today. It's probably going to be a story for some of our next generation. They get a very young start. So he founded his first IT service provider in 2002 and led the enterprise from break fix to managed service provider. And you'll have to tell us what that means for those who aren't in our world a little bit in our audience, Alan. And he brought them from paper ticketing to custom software, which seems like a good idea for an IT company to get into. He sold his IT service provider in 2011, and subsequently he led two other IT service providers in leadership positions. So he's seen a couple of things. He both saw great success in these other organizations that he helped lead, and he doubled in size during his tenure. Alan has now founded Eureka Process, which he founded in 2018, and along with his team of consultants, he aims to improve companies through immersed engagement in their daily processes, strategies, and activities. And he is a sought-after MSP expert who builds meaningful growth-centered relationships that bring about next-level business performance, which I think is well needed in the MSP space, as there's a lot of MSPs who are lacking in process. So thanks so much for being here today, Alan. How you doing today?
Doing great. It's a Friday here in the recording studio.
Yeah.
Been a long week of some traveling, visiting a lot of other MSPs, which stands for Managed Service Provider. And what it means is that it's an IT firm that specializes in doing a flat rate type of model so that they get incentivized to prevent having problems. So the less work they have to do, the better off they are, and the better off their clients are by preventing those problems in the first place. That's MSP. So doing great. Nate, how are you?
I'm doing well. I like the idea of doing less work, so that's why I raised my hand. So,
Yes, please.
so for the audience, I also own an MSP. So I met Alan through one of the industry conferences and he was a panelist there, and just really connected with him, and glad to bring some of his expertise here, because in our audience, we have quite a number of MSPs who listen to this, but I think process has been a journey for me of just learning that I can apply it to so many other types of businesses, not just MSP. So tell us about Eureka Process and what you do.
So Eureka Process, we like to think what we do is in our name, a very process-based approach, but it's Eureka is ancient Greek for I have found it, made famous by the story of Archimedes discovering the rules of displacement in physics. So we help people discover process for their business, because I feel something that every business needs is the ability to create consistently positive results. And that's what a process does. And a definition of process is a series of steps that lead to a result. And of course, a good process would lead to a positive result. So that's the basics of what we do for our clients. And we do specialize in only IT service providers.
And do you use any particular method or foundation, or have you kind of built your own foundation from different sources?
I've definitely built our own foundation from different sources. There's a lot of good sources out there on managing a business. Uh, Half of what we do is really basic business leadership and processes. The other half is specific to the IT industry. So great, every business should have a strategy, long term and short term. Every business should treat people kindly and leverage their greatest asset, which is people. A great way to leverage that asset is to give them clear expectations and communications in the form of processes, KPIs, coaching, training, and onboarding. And we do all those things, but we also do all those things applied specifically to the IT service provider. So you have that one layer. Then you go down a step. It's like, okay, IT service providers tend to have tickets. People report a problem, and that problem has to be tracked in a ticketing system and ultimately resolved. And how would an ITSP, IT service provider, track that ticket? What is the best method for that ticket to flow from one resource to another as needed to get the best possible client experience? So that's what we do. We have all sorts of cool systems, both at the strategy level, the process level, and even how to implement the specific tools of the trade.
So can you tell us a little bit about the why behind why you decided to start a process consulting business?
Um, so I had a little dark period after all of those great leadership opportunities. I mean, I'm a vulnerable guy. I actually ended up broken homeless in the back alleys of Mexico.
Oh, that's not a good place to be, I hear.
Actually, it was quite pleasant. I enjoyed my time. It
Okay.
just wasn't the old Alan that everybody knew.
Okay.
Uh, and I've been looking for some opportunities to do some things. I'd started up what became Eureka Process. It was actually dealing with social media at the time. And finally, one of the connections I had made years ago called me and says, "Hey, we have an opportunity for you in IT." It's like, great, because any money is better than no money. Uh, and within 3 or 4 weeks of doing a relatively technical job, which I hadn't done in 10 years, I was doing well. Uh, I started giving advice about, you could set up your tool differently, or have you thought about selling your services differently? Because this is what I've seen work. And next thing I know, that's all they were asking me for, because that advice was more valuable than the technical work. And what I further realized is it's the same advice that I had coincidentally taken in all three of my past ventures. I was like, oh, there's a system here. There's a process for this. I knew the answer was process, but I didn't realize that I already had the process memorized, and that I applied it pretty much the same in multiple places. And that's when I began to when I came up with the brand of Eureka Process, and I began to commoditize and package those things so I could more easily share them with others.
So you started out, 94, you say, as an entry level tech. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how it helped you develop these processes that you use today?
Hmm. Interesting connection. That employer still jokes to this day that I was the summer help that never left because I was three.
It's the best
I
kind
was
of help. Yeah.
I was actually 16 when I took the job.
Okay.
I just looked young. Uh, so I was pretty good at the troubleshooting process, and I think maybe even more so than technology. Uh, I don't even know if it immediately came to me, but even when I was growing through the ranks there, they would send me into very difficult situations. And while that did involve technology, the difficult situation wasn't that the technology was broken; it was that the client was upset.
Mm.
Uh, and I had a very people-based approach to how I fix things. Maybe even such kitschy terms as "How does that make you feel?" Like, "Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry this is happening. Let me see what I can do to take care of this." And I don't know if I had quite, honed that process was the answer yet, but I was already a very methodical thinker. A leads to B leads to C. That was in my nature. And it was probably a few years later before process was the word that I used to describe how I did that.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's great. And so you did that for a while, almost 10 years, and then you started your own. Why did you start your own instead of staying with that employer?
I don't know if this is true of all entrepreneurs, but I bet it's most of them. I had control issues. I wanted the process to be a certain way, but others wouldn't see it that way. And I didn't have I made a lot of changes in those organizations, but I didn't feel like enough would change. Uh, and then my one of my mentors at the time was actually a client of ours that was a CPA. He was like, "Hey, I have this client of mine who I think you would serve well if you were their IT firm."
Hmm.
Uh, and I was not working for another IT firm at that moment in time, so it wasn't a conflict of interest. Uh, so I took on that job. As a matter of fact, I funded the business by selling them prepaid hours
Hmm.
so that I could have a lump sum check, open the business, start a bank account, and then start delivering services. And it spread from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can understand that idea of trying to have a little bit more control or wanting to try things their own way. It's that itch that every entrepreneur has that it's just
Yeah.
hard to get past and everything. So you did that for a while. And one of the things I thought was interesting, you talk on the panel that where I met you in the conference, you were talking a little bit about selling an MSP. And I like to cover those who sell businesses here on the journey because it's kind of like everybody's golden parachute. Well, maybe I can sell it.
Mhm.
What was the process? What did you have to do to be able to sell?
Selling my first one was definitely a trial and error game, and it was very painful actually. I had listed my business for sale, which on the panel that you were at, I actually recommend not listing your business for sale. Totally different topic.
Yeah.
But I had listed my business for sale. A couple of door knockers and someone I got interested, gave a letter of intent, started doing due diligence to look at your books. And they go, "Hey, love how process based you are. However, you're doing 30% of the work at the time, and this financial metric is bad, and this one's bad." So, okay. So they backed out of the deal. And guess what I did for the next 12 months?
You
Uh,
fixed it.
I, I improved those financial metrics. I got myself out of delivering IT services. And then lo and behold, a year later, another offer comes in, a letter of intent. Like, oh, let's look at this. Same story. They went through the numbers. I had more check boxes this time, but they got to the point where after talking to me, like, oh, you're having this financial problem over here. Uh, and so once again, back to the drawing board, improving those things. Uh, then I had kind of a turn of fate, though. I actually got quite ill and was unable to work for a while. Uh, and it was stress related. And my family had encouraged me to step out of that time. So I actually brokered a deal with a competitor. I love the term competitor, which was able to make the transaction happen. Uh, so I think the moral of the story is what made me decide to sell was I was a little bit vulnerable. I might even regret it to this day, even though
Hmm.
I love to where I've made it to where I'm at. Uh, but when I say don't list your business for sale, this is what I mean. I feel like if you're doing business the right way, developing the right reputation in town, your competitors will gladly acquire you when the time is right for you to do so.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, don't sell the business out of desperation necessarily.
Yes. In fact, one of the questions on the panel is you've decided to sell your business. What do you do next? And my answer is take a vacation.
Yeah.
You've got to get out of that emotional state. Like, is this really, are you doing it for the right reasons? Because if you're distraught, if you're stressed, you probably bought high and you're selling low. Versus, hey, everything's going great. Let me sell while the value of my company is high.
Mm-hmm. So once it was sold, did that feel good? I mean, you said maybe a little bit of regret to this day. What did you do after that point? Like, what does one do when they they won? Now you don't have
Uh,
anywhere to go to work because you sold it.
yeah, this is actually where my regret comes from. It wasn't the sale itself; it was what I was doing after the sale. So I worked for a year for the company who bought mine. I had a successful tenure there as director of IT services. Them purchasing my business doubled their IT business. I was at the helm for a year, and we doubled it again. It's like, hey, this is great success, but I hated what we were doing, the way we were doing it, the methodology to practice. So once again, so I went to a competitor. They were even larger, and I introduced processes there for the first time. We grew from 12, team size of 12 to a team size of 24 in 3 or 4 years. Uh, and we became a very process and KPI based company. And I'm very proud of the work I did there. But I felt like I was always pushing some sort of boulder uphill. I worked for great people. I mean, the team was great, the owners were great. They gave me a lot of latitude, but I'm always having to convince people to convince people to convince people. And then I actually had that was probably the final point of my life was changing back then. I ended up getting a divorce. Uh, I feel like it was related to the sale of my business, maybe the loss of my identity.
Hmm.
Uh, through all that, and that's when I went to go explore Mexico for a time and find this opportunity to Eureka process. I probably got really long-winded on that one because it's personal and emotional,
No, it's
uh,
fine.
but it's what leveraged me and pushed me to where we're at today, which I'm extremely proud of.
Well, and I think that that's fascinating, how you, you think like you win. Like if you sell your business, I think that's kind of like the thought. Like if you sell your business, like you're good, you're set for life. And here you've told us that you went to Mexico and really didn't have anything during that time, if I'm understanding your story correctly.
Correct.
And now you're kind of back on top, per se. I don't know if on top is the right wording to say, but you're back running a business, and you've done it from zero twice. And learning through those failures, those are really the business, the stories we like to highlight here on the journey. Tell me, what's one thing through these ventures that you really didn't expect to happen?
Um, so in the earlier ventures, I think I'm an odd duck. I read self-help books and I immediately implement stuff. I have no fear of change. I had no fear of failure, honestly, which I think is generally a good thing, but it's not all good. Uh, I would read books that says, "Hey, yeah, fire all your bad clients and and focus on the good," and I would do it. It's like, okay, I have no money now. What? Uh, so I think that in the early ventures, that's what I did not expect. That good good advice is typically a little outrageous because they're counting on some human resistance. I did not have that resistance. So that was my early unexpected thing in the ventures. Uh, and probably these days, what I didn't expect is now I was shocked by how fast you can grow. Having that larger mindset has been amazing.
Hmm. That's interesting. Hopefully we have a little bit more time to dive into that at the end. But tell me, what's a common myth about what you do at Eureka Process?
Well, I own the title of consultant, and the word consultant has a lot of cool, yeah, fun cliches in it. It used to be that if you were a consultant, it actually means you're unemployed because you were just trying to help people out until you found a job.
I did that for
Uh,
a while.
well, I'm not unemployed. I'm either retired, semi-retired, or I'm consulting right now.
Yeah.
The other fun cliche is that the purpose of all consulting is to sell more consulting,
Hmm.
and that's actually true.
Okay.
Uh, uh, what I like to say about our business in particular, and I talk to prospects and clients about this all the time, is like, hey, when does our engagement end? And my answer is whenever you want it to. However, most clients keep us forever. And they're worried about that. Like, well, I don't want to, pay your fee for hours. Like, this is how it works. Typically, we dive in and we focus on a single area of your business. Maybe it's service delivery or marketing or sales, and then we have success there. So we do actually get to the end, success. And they're like, oh, this worked out well. Let's apply it to a different area. And there's about 8 areas in any business. You could add in IT projects and maybe triage or some of those small areas like that. However, by the time we solve all those problems, if things have gone well, your company is a much larger, more mature company now. And it's time to start the process over again because, okay, this grew us from a team size of 10 to a team size of 25. I'm ready to start getting set up to be a team size of 40. And it does take some differences. So that's how I like to think we stay to most of our clients for life. They're not beholden to us, but they like what they're getting. So yes, the purpose of all consulting is to sell more consulting, but consulting does not mean unemployed.
Yeah, I would agree with you with that, and I think it's just so true. Is that the relationship sale is kind of like an MSP. You just continue to have needs to have somebody in place there to fall back to it. So tell me, what do you think is the biggest challenge you're facing in consulting, specifically the MSPs right now, and how are you overcoming those challenges?
Excellent question. I think the biggest challenge is always temporal. It's what's happening now. Toward the beginning of the year, we were having I think a scalability issues as our team sizes doubled every year ourselves. So we're at 8 now. Uh, these processes that we thought would work at this size in practice with human nature, like this isn't working out. So we spent a lot of time developing the right processes, changing our company structure, who does what, how can we get more focus in our job. I'm happy to report I feel like we hit a success, a checkbox in that area just a month or two ago. So now that all that's in place and we're scalable, well, our new challenge is revenue, sales, uh, which I love because the way we tackle it is we're eating our own dog food. We have clients asking us, how do we, make more sales? How do we get more revenue? And I'm doing what I teach our clients. In fact, I'm even having a chance to refine our processes now that I'm actively living and breathing it every day to make that happen.
Hmm.
Uh, I would even say just a specific tip on how I solve sales and marketing besides doing it uh, is yes, be on social media, have a website, SEO, all those things are important. I don't think any one of them is the most important thing to do. However, for us, and I think this can be true for more IT service providers, and you can apply this knowledge in any business area, find out where your clients are or where your prospects are and be there.
Hmm.
In my case, the IT community has a lot of online forums where they discuss various topics. I join those forums and I give as much free help as I can in those topics. And lo and behold, the more free help I give, the more people that contact say, "Hey, I really appreciate the advice. Can we talk some more?" And next thing you know, we're having a sales call. And I would get slack on that when we were busy having scalability issues. So now I spend 30 minutes a day dedicated to participating in those forums. I also spend 30 minutes a day making sure I'm following up on all my sales leads and activities. Have I sent the quotes? Have I heard from them in the last 2 weeks? I make sure I make time to make it happen every single day. And every time I've done this, because I've gone back and forth before, uh, it's not immediate, but give it 4, 6 weeks of doing this activity, suddenly the sales start to come in. I'm so convinced of that when the team said, "Hey, we really got to make this happen." All right, I'm going to put this on my schedule. I'm going to do it. Give me 6 weeks. We'll have some sales.
Hmm.
That's proven to be true yet again.
So important having a good sales process in place. From Alan from Eureka Process. So,
There you go.
yeah, there you go. Tell me, what's the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
I had a very difficult time. You gave me this question ahead of time, Nate, and I was
Oh
like,
no.
most important. Uh, I feel like I have picked up so many important things from so many places. Uh, and I was trying to find a catchphrase here for us. And I think what I came up with is be patient, but not complacent.
Hmm.
Uh, just to expand upon that, you can't just wait for change. You have to make change happen. But once you're making the change, you have to realize that things do take time. Just for example, that sales process we are talking about, I can't just go out and make a sale because I need to. I can apply the consistent effort and be patient, knowing that that will generate results because that has been proven consistently to happen.
I need that quote on my wall because I'm the most impatient person that
Yeah,
you've
be
ever met when
patient,
it
not
comes.
complacent.
That's right. So, what do you think, in your opinion, is the most important strength somebody needs to be successful? We can maybe apply this to being an IT business owner or just being a business owner in general, but your audience is IT business owner. What do you think it takes?
Um, uh, Again, these types of questions sometimes give me new thoughts that I hadn't put together before. And I think what I came up with is like your people.
Hmm.
A lot of our prospects call us, oh, these morons. I'm tired of babysitting. And I get the feeling, and I know they don't actually think that people are morons, but it's that emotional buildup you have. But I think there is a certain energy that people get from helping others succeed, from being helpful to someone in any regard. And I think that if you can enable everyone in your organization to help each other, and ultimately help your clients and your vendors and honestly everybody without the organization as well, that you've created this ball of energy that everyone can enjoy and be happy. And when work is fun, it ceases to feel like a four-letter word.
Hmm. I love that. Just enjoy being around and building that culture and not forced,
Right.
I love that a lot. So if somebody's starting out in the IT service provider field, what is a piece of advice you would give them?
Uh, and if you're starting out in the IT field, it's I would say that no work is beneath you.
Hmm.
Start somewhere, absorb knowledge. Even if you were wanting to get into consulting, first of all, I remind you, consulting by its very nature is a later in life career. You
Mm-hmm.
can't rush it. I could not have started this business 20 years ago. I did not have the experience to make it happen. However, when you're starting in your career, I was very receptive to every department. I didn't think lesser of salespeople. I didn't think lesser of the receptionist. I wanted to learn, how do salespeople work? How does this reception thing work? How does the mailroom work? What does the owner do with his time all day? What's he even doing in the office? And I would ask those questions, and I think I gained a lot of knowledge, experience, and curiosity just by wanting to know what everyone was up to, how it worked, and how it connected. So I was receptionist for a while. I was a PC builder for a while. I was a manager for a while. Uh, it was all of it is learning, so I didn't think any lesser of it.
Well,
So that's my advice.
I do have to question one piece though. You had a mailroom in an IT company?
I didn't. I threw that out like in the conversation for other industries if it works, but no, we did not have a mailroom.
Okay. So,
Even though it was the receptionist job that I had to actually receive the mail and sort it, but that was a 5-minute task a day.
absolutely. No, I just thought that was funny. So, tell me what's one lesson that your job in consulting that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life?
Um, I would probably repeat that it is a later in life career.
Okay.
Don't rush it and grab that experience from everywhere. Uh, those above you, those below you, those beside you, even in your personal life. Taking interest in your server at a restaurant. How does this job work? Well, why does it work that way?
Hmm.
How do you get paid? I love reading books and learning from everywhere.
Do you have can you speak to any mentors that you've had and who's probably the most important in your life?
I have a problem with the most important because they all have the right age and stage, but I'll
Yeah.
call out a few names even. Like I used to always look up to Carl. I look up to Carl Palachuk. He's in the IT space.
Mm-hmm.
He also had his own business as an IT firm, had success. Became a consultant. But then I saw that, man, this guy has 20 books out and he's being paid to speak at these conferences. Like, I want to be like that guy. Uh, Finally had an opportunity to meet him in person and share a beer with him. And great dude. He also wrote the forward to a book I have coming out. So to me, it probably means more to me than he realizes that Carl Palachuk is writing the forward to my book coming out.
Yeah.
I also mentioned an early client, a CPA. His name was Gary Brand. He was a CPA slash business coach, and I would join many of his coaching sessions, private and group sessions, and being connected with that many smart business people, I thought was pretty awesome and gave me a lot of my early advice.
So thanks for sharing that with us. You'll have to tell us about your new book here at the end and when that comes out and how we can get a hold of that. Tell me what's one thing about the consulting world that almost no one else agrees with you about.
Here's my fun one. Growing a business is no way to make money,
Oh, sometimes that's very true.
but owning a grown business is.
Okay.
Just keep in mind that when you're growing, there's going to be resource constraints, one way or the other, and that the growing part is quite challenging. But once it's there, like every time our business takes a breather for some reason, a couple of months of not growing, like, wow, we're really profitable. Let's grow some more.
Right.
Uh, so it's nice to have that cycle of breath.
Yes. So true. So tell me what's an underrated tool that's indispensable for your job.
So many tools, especially in technology, right?
Right. Too
Uh,
many tools sometimes.
yeah. Well, first of all, believe it or not, as a consultant in the IT space, I actually use the same tools our IT clients use because we want to stay familiar with them. So we're using a ticketing system. I record my time for everything client facing and other things as well. Uh, we use dashboards and those types of things. I love my laptop. Uh, I also have a massive studio at my home office with a desktop because it's nice to be comfortable when you work this many hours in front of a screen. And man, these Microsoft Surfaces, the battery life is amazing.
Oh yeah, using one right now. Thanks,
Yeah.
Microsoft. Need to get a sponsorship. So
Make checks payable too.
yes, the Journey podcast, Microsoft sponsorship, please. So, tell me if you were going to start a different business tomorrow, what would that business be?
A bar in a medium to large city.
I got a short list of cities.
Not terribly short. I didn't want small town. And the primary reason is after doing some research, I'm used to profit margins, and IT is a pretty profitable space. And the reason for a bar is because I like connecting with people. That's one of my passions. It's what I do in this business as well. And I think I could continue that and apply my knowledge of process and people into a completely different industry. I think that'd be fun. I think most bar owners would tell me I'm wrong, which is fine, and they're probably right. But that'd be a fun retirement project.
Maybe depends on again your audience too.
Yeah.
Are there any other occupations you'd like to try besides maybe IT or consultant or bartender?
um, I really think my occupation is entrepreneur or business owner.
Okay.
And I don't ever see that changing, but I do see applying that in other areas. Like I mentioned, the bar. I've done real estate. I'd like to do more of that. Uh, I would love to get to the point where I could actually invest in more businesses and be the business owner only so that I can understand the industry and work in the processes without having to be the technician in the business.
Hmm.
Honestly, just line up a bucket list of all the stuff I haven't done before. I would be interested.
Hmm. That'd be that'd be cool. Kind of like a venture capitalist, but not really. Kind of.
Yeah, or maybe a business consultant with ownership. I don't know. It's coming soon. Somewhere in the
Coming
next
soon.
5 or 10 years.
Okay. I look forward to seeing where that goes. So tell us about your new book, The P and Process. This is the one with Carl Palachuk forward. Am I correct?
Yeah. So the title is Process and the Other P Word, which
Okay.
is also process. So as the title implies, I hope it has a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor in it. Because I try hard to be funny, and if I'm not, I try often, so that helps. Uh, so what process and the other P word, which is also process, is about, is we identify a very nasty disease called LBS, which means leaky bucket syndrome. It's human nature to forget things over time or to modify things over time, kind of like the telephone game, right? A tells B, tells C, tells D, and you've lost some information along the way because human beings are leaky buckets. You cannot fix that. The bucket is going to leak. We're humans. We're not robots. And once you identify that as true, all right, we can deal with it now that we know about it. So we have to fix it. And we give you, there's 4 ways to fix it. Onboarding, continuous coaching, KPIs, and processes. And in the book, we give you a little preview of how the coaching works. We just touch on KPIs and the onboarding, but then we spend time talking about the most important processes. The first one being the process, which is far better than what's called the procedure, which Lotus Ami Pro hated that back in 2003. You have a duplicate word. I know. And the process is the blueprint for your documentation and process library. So you decide where and what and how, just all the interrogatives, who, what, and where, why, how. Learned that in elementary school. And we also go a little step further and we give you a preview to what your most important process would look like, which is how you deliver service. So that's the book in a nutshell.
Well, I look forward to getting a copy of the book. Couple of rapid fire questions here at the end, Alan. We thank you for being here on the Journey podcast. Besides your own books, what are 3 other books you would recommend to the audience that aren't authored by Alan?
Oh, so putting my book 3 times doesn't count. All right. I do strongly believe in reading books, especially self-improvement books, occasionally fiction, because you get inspired that way.
Yeah.
So it's hard to pick 3 because it really depends on your age, stage, and situation what book I recommend. However, a very popular one for entrepreneurs in general is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. That book really speaks to people who perform a task, a technician, doesn't have to be an IT technician, who wants to shift into being a business owner, because you have to shift into that very business and process oriented mindset. There's some great advice in there. For those who are considering becoming an entrepreneur or want to know maybe why they should, I like Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. His books are light on details, but large on inspiration about, the rich get rich because they don't pay taxes on a W-2 income. They have more control in that seat. And so that's what that book discusses. And I read those way back in the day, even before my first business. One I read recently that I'm starting to recommend is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by Hart Ecker. It really talks about the mindset required, and essentially it's think bigger. And we have so many self-limiting beliefs that we're ingrained with through our society, through our upbringing, that we have to acknowledge those things and learn to think bigger. And I'll throw one more out there. Bonus book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's a very old book written right after the Great Depression, or actually written during release right after the Great Depression. It's still very relevant. People have probably heard the book The Secret related, because there's a concept of vibrations, energy, frou-frou stuff out there, do good things, think good things happen. There's a truth in there somewhere, and I hope everybody has a chance to experience that. I know that I have, and it wasn't even intentional. I didn't read these books and decide. I was doing this, and I read these books and identified, like, oh, that's what I've been doing. It's a little bit of power of the positive thinking, but it's more the details about how it actually works. It's not just affirmations and kumbaya.
Good book recommendations there. All right. I'm starting the business today, Alan. What would be a word of wisdom you would give me?
For startups, my word of wisdom is always that revenue is slower than you think it is. Plan accordingly. Everybody who says, oh, I'm counting on this and then this and then this, and it's like, double it, maybe.
All right. So tell me, I've asked you a lot of questions today. I appreciate you answering them all, but is there a question you wish I would have asked you today?
I'll just throw a vanity question out there, and I'll just give you the answer instead of a question. I love to tell people, because one of my proudest moments as an entrepreneur is when I log into our morning huddle every morning, and we now have 8 video squares on that box. So we have 8 people. Our CFOs in Spain. I love being international. I live on the west coast of Canada, despite being born in Savannah, Georgia, and then moved to Mexico. And we have 6 other teammates all up and down the East Coast. And we actually have one part-timer who's on Vancouver Island in Canada as well. Okay. So I love the fact that that's how our team is comprised, and that we're so diverse.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great to see how that grows. Like, what happened here? So,
yeah. Well, I know what happened, and I'm super proud about it.
Yeah. If you don't want to know what happened, contact Alan to help you figure out that process.
That's right.
So if one of our audience members wants to engage with you, where can they find you online? How can they learn more about the PM process or Eureka process?
Easiest way would be your website, which is eurekaprocess.com. The name's Alan Edwards, so you're also welcome to connect with me on social media platforms. We're certainly on LinkedIn, Facebook, and several others. Glad to connect personally, or there's also ways to contact us on eurekaprocess.com.
Yeah. And I can just say Alan is an easy guy just to talk to and get to know. He's not one of those hide behind some wall and impossible to get to know. It's just been easy and just a great guest here on the Journey podcast. We thank you so much for joining us today and just sharing your story. And it's just great to get to know you better.
Thank you very much for having me, Nate. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks so much.